Got a question asking if an owner that sells a property, if the buyer can evict the tenant so they can move into it to live in the property. Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our videos. Now, typical type of question we get from people, and this is a question that you want to be asking if your property is occupied by a tenant occupant and you were looking at moving in. This would be a logical question to ask, okay? The answer is not as simple as it sounds on paper, okay? Because here's the deal. What an attorney or someone's going to need to know is, okay, you want to move in, right? What type of tenant rights do we have here? Is the tenant under a fixed lease? You know, let's say they're under a 1-year lease that expires 8 months from now. Okay, can the owner terminate that tenancy? Unless the tenant agrees consensually to end the lease, prior to expiring, no. The answer is no. Also, you got to also know too if the tenancy is subject to the state's Tenant Protection Act of 2019, where the owner is going to have cause, or if you're in a local municipality that governs evictions and so forth. Because if you're in that local municipality, you're going to have to follow their rules and so forth. So the answer is going to highly depend on where the property is located and what type of term lease it is, okay, or a rental agreement, okay? If it's a month-to-month agreement, possibly you might be able to terminate the tenancy, but you got to know if you're going to be subject to the Tenants Protection Act or not. For purposes of this video, let's talk about state Tenant Protection Act, okay? And it's a month-to-month tenancy, okay? And the tenancy subject to Tenants Protection Act. This owner, hypothetically, the buyer could hypothetically terminate the tenancy for owner move-in under the Tenants Protection Act. The overview of how you qualify for tenant protection, owner move-in for Tenant Protection Act purposes are you're going to move into the property within 90 days. You're going to have to live there for 12 months or greater, 365 days or more. There are no other dwellings on that parcel that the owner can move into. Similar, if there's a vacant unit that's a similar size, like it's a 2-in-1, and the tenancy that you want to move into, the tenant's occupying is a 2-in-1, you probably might have some issues with that. And then two, your lease agreement or your rental agreement, if it was entered into, the tenancy started on or after July 1st, 2020, there has to be a term in the lease or rental agreement that allows the owner to unilaterally give notice to terminate the tenancy for owner move-in. Okay, if you meet all those requirements, you possibly could do the owner move-in tenant termination tenancy. One thing you got to remember too is you're going to have to provide rental assistance to the tenants, 1 month's worth of rent. You're going to have to elect that in the termination notice, whether you're going to pay the tenant directly in cash, the equivalent of 1 month's worth of rent within 15 days, or waive the last month's worth of rent. And you should be aware that if you don't live in the property for 365 days or more, the tenant gets a first right of refusal to move back into the property at the rent that they were paying, and you got to pay all their moving expenses and damages, and potentially get sued by the tenant for not complying with the Tenants Protection Act. So those are kind of some of the caveats you got to worry about with owner move-in. And I know a lot of you all want to move in genuinely. You're going to live there for your forever home, or you're going to live there for more than a year and follow the rules, okay? But these are some of the issues that you have to look about, and just someone's going to have to ask you, like me, like, hey, what type of tenancy do we have? Do we have the lease? Do we have all the things that we need in the lease to do this and so forth? Because there might be some things that we have to do, like a change in terms of tenancy, to add that provision into the lease and so forth like that. So again, doing a couple of videos here, some of these questions, they appear to be simple answers to questions, and sometimes the circumstances make it where it is complex because there's so many rules in the background, and so forth, and there's certain factors that you need to take into account. So landlords, or buyers particularly, if you're looking at purchasing a property with a tenant occupant inside and you don't know what your rights are once you become the owner of the property, best to consult with landlord's counsel before you close on that deal to see if you can actually move into the property as you intend to do under the law, because there might be several setbacks. Okay, and if you're purchasing a property in the Northern California area, feel free to reach out. We might be able to help out. You can go to our profile down below to book a free case review session to talk about these things here. You just hit our profile, go to our website, and you can book a free case review on our website. A couple of questions we'll ask to see if we're a good fit or not. Put your comments, questions down below. Until next time, folks, I'll talk to you then. Thanks.